So I thought I would do a story time about dating while trans. Again, I am a 42 transgender woman who currently lives in Atlanta, but I lived 17 years in Los Angeles. This took place in Los Angeles. So when I was a baby tranny, I transitioned at the end of my 25th year, about to turn 26. It just got to the point where I was tired not living in my truth, and yeah, for me it was like a literally a mental struggle of trying to put on this front of being a boy, but internally feeling like a woman. And once I fully understood the possibilities of transitioning and being willing to, lose people is what I understood. You lose people when you gain yourself as a trans person. And at that point in my life, that made sense because today, my God, the trans experience is really interesting. Okay, so I was like freshly transitioned, literally like a few months into my transition. So just to, keep it transparent, I was still very much male bodied, but living in my truth. So presenting feminine as much as I could while still not, having zoom zooms and wham whams. And for some reason, men love to date trans women in that era of transition, and traditionally it's the same power dynamic as like a 50-year-old dating an 18-year-old, because there's a lot of mental games that can be played when someone who's trans and searching for validation, the way the games can be played are fierce. And okay, so my best friend I say all that to say, my best friend at that time, she and I were best friends prior to transitioning. Literally transitioned within months of each other, maybe even weeks. We were both experiencing a lot of the same dysphorias. We discussed it, so on and so forth. But mind you, we had been friends years before while living in Los Angeles. She was a hairdresser, a very, experienced, a very respected hairdresser in Los Angeles. I was a very respected makeup artist in the industry in Los Angeles. And yeah, we were just like industry cunts, little industry baby trannies. And yeah, so we would go out often. And one night we went out to a club called the Abbey, and we met two guys. And I wasn't really paying them either, like really any attention. I have anxiety really bad, so I wasn't paying the guys any attention. Numbers were exchanged. Yeah, so numbers were... So after the numbers were exchanged, we left, we continue on with our life, yada, yada, yada. So a few weeks after that, I caught wind of this nightclub, and it's like a trans attracted nightclub. And mind you, I'm a baby tranny in all of this. I'm literally a baby tranny in all of this. So we ended up going to the nightclub. The nightclub was doing a contest. I ended up winning the contest, and I got to be the face of said trans club for about a year. So that club was at the time every Wednesday in North Hollywood. So we would go to that club every Wednesday. Eventually that club had to move to a new club that placed that club then on a Monday. So I started go-go dancing at that club on a Monday for extra cash. Well, the gentleman that was met at the Abbey, that was exchanged between my homegirl and him, they exchanged phone numbers, was at the club. Now, pause, backstory there. When they exchanged phone numbers, then thereafter, my homegirl tells me how much she's also African American. She does not like black guys. White is right. Get you a white king, and all of those things. And, she just was not interested. Hell no, not for me. Okay, so mind you, time has passed. A few months have gone by. Now he's at the club. I'm go-go dancing, collecting coins. Now when money presents itself, I'm not going to pass up on the coin. So we're go-go dancing. He comes and tips. Thank you for the coin. Yada, yada, yada. I'm giving you guys all this backstory because you need to understand what happened. Got it. Okay. So then he brings me a drink and says, when you take a break, I would like to take a break with you. And I was like, oh, okay, trying to get my attention. So boom. Long story short, that night, he was very kind to me. He was a gentleman, tipped and everything, and said, may I take your phone number? I'm interested in black men. So he gave me his phone number. So boom. I then contact my now ex-best friend and say, you know that guy you met at the Abbey? Again, the story spills out of her mouth. Ew, black man, not into it, da-da-da-da-da-da, wasn't my type, yeah, white is right. Stick with my white king. I was like, well, he offered me his phone number. Oh, girl, do it if you want to. See, this is an opportunity amongst trans girls. So say something like that, but they really don't mean something like that. Because I was interested, I said, this is the scenario. Then this person said, girl, go for it. So I went for it. So the next thing you know, fast forward, me and this gentleman were together for 4 years. Okay, we lived together. There were several opportunities and call outs throughout that relationship. In the beginning, his finances were good. I ended up moving in with him. When I moved in with him, mind you, I was also working full time in cosmetics, as well as go-go dancing, as well as stripping one night, and as well as being an entertainer's personal makeup artist, who's also, that's a whole nother story. Anyways, so there were a lot of situations and call outs and behavior from my partner, but I never really had time to stop and think about it because I didn't want my lifestyle, let alone his lifestyle, to slip for our apartment, our car, our phones, our cable, water, you know, hair, makeup, da 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 da. I'm still a baby trainee. I got my breasts done while I was with him, and I started getting body work done while I was with him. And then he started framing it to me like I was changing, meaning I was gaining confidence and he could no longer keep me under his thumb with mental manipulation. So fast forward, I end up doing a very big job. This is like at the end of the 4 years. I end up doing a very big job that took me out of Los Angeles and put me in Palm Springs. I was going to be there 4 days. It was a very big designer. He had me keying the show. It was on Lifestyle. It was attached to Project Runway. Okay, I got told by my partner that I was there cheating. Mind you, I don't have time to cheat. I'm there 4 days. I'm keying a fashion show. I have meetings with the designers. I have press work I have to do. We have to go over the final looks. I have to be there during the calls and walkthrough with the talent, the models. So it was like I was working my ass off. So by the time I got home, it was reframed to me that I was cheating. And I always told him, when do I have time? And if you think I'm so desperate to cheat that I only can like cheat with someone for like 5 minutes, like, why are you even with me? Like, you see how hard I'm working. So boom, fast forward. We end up falling apart. We totally break up. Now, there was another layer to that was flipped on me because he reframed his friend and our relationship as someone I wanted to be with. So at this time, it's extremely crazy to me because all I knew as a trans woman at that point in my transition, because he got me so early on, was to be his girlfriend, then his fiance, and the next step was supposed to be his wife, because the whole fairy tale was being played out for me or painted for me. Honey, she was a mirage. So what also was interesting is how my then best friend started switching up how she was moving with me, and none of it made sense. I'm not going to be able to get all this in this 10 minutes, so stay tuned for part 2 because I'm definitely going to do it. Because what happens then thereafter took a whole year to come to fruition. When I say it changed me mentally, it changed me mentally. Child, I had to walk my dog. Okay, part 2 of what it was like dating as a baby trans. Okay, so before I go into anything else, I need to like fully break down the framework that was offered to me while being in this relationship, and this also piggybacks on the mental manipulation of, you know, a fresh trans girl who's seeking validation and a man weaponizing that against her, right? Okay, so then what happens in the relationship early on, like I said, he met me at this club, right? So while meeting me at this club, he also had like his boys that he would meet up at the club. Like all the brothers kind of hung out in a corner at the baby tranny, club. Not everyone that worked there was a baby tranny, but the majority of the girls that work there are baby trannies, right? So this gentleman, my ex would always tell me that he was my type. And I was like, I don't understand why he's my type. And he would say, well, he has that look most of the trans girls go for. And I didn't understand that because me as an individual, I'm traditionally attracted to someone, honestly, like looks are a piece of it, but I need someone that can match me intellectually to stimulate me and then also can keep up with me in the bedroom. So as far as my ex, he wasn't much to look at, but that eggplant was eggplanting. But also he had really good conversation, but just for optics, his friend was about 6'2", 6'3", very chocolate complected, bald head, really fit. And most of the girls did go crazy for him. I thought he was kind of a douchebag. Now, my ex, he was 6'5", he was very slender, he was in his like late 30s, early 40s. I can't remember his age, honestly, at this point. But body wasn't really doing anything, but like I said, that eggplant was eggplant. And he was a sweet southern boy, southern man. And I enjoyed talking with him, and I enjoyed spending time with him, and he liked dates and stuff like that. And what it appeared to me was he was so comfortable, going out with me. We definitely lived our life together, and that was my partner. So that's really what I was focused on, and I was groomed to think that we went from dating, and from dating 2 years, then I went to being his fiance, and then from 2 years into being his fiance, the next step was then to marry him, right? That's what was being romanticized to me. Okay, so all these different like plays are going on. So right before him and I break up, my now ex-best friend, about a few months prior to him and I breaking up, she calls off our friendship over a haircut. Like I said, she was a hairdresser. And like I said, she was really into white men. She was dating this white man at the time. Mind you, was only dating for like a month. And she took about 5 hours. And mind you, I went to go get my hair cut at like 1 in the morning at her spot. We're friends. And the haircut took about 5 hours. Do the math. So we wrapped very late at night. And that was because she was doing her narcotics in the corner. But I was just there for a haircut and to smoke some pot. Can I say pot? Okay. So, the person that she was dealing with felt like I took 5 hours away from them spending time with each other, and she didn't walk away with any money. But again, I was a makeup artist. She was a hairdresser. I would do her makeup. She would cut my hair. Why? Because we're friends. That's what friends do. But all of a sudden, that was weaponized against me. And me, I couldn't process what really happened. So I was just like, if that's what you choose, if that's how you feel, I only can support you in how you feel, but this doesn't make sense to me. So mind you, also my partner and my ex-best friend never got along, right? There was that number exchange early in the beginning of the story, but because of how she felt about black men, she always made it very clear that I should really upgrade. Like I'm doing myself a disservice. So I would do things along the lines of trying to like keep them around each other as much as possible so they could eventually come to a space where they understood that you're my best friend, you're my partner, and you guys have to get along to some degree. I would intentionally invite her over right before I would get off of work so she could be at the house when I got there and allow them time to spend with each other and maybe have a conversation so I would hear about a breakthrough. And all of a sudden, they understood that their common ground was me, and because I'm thinking I'm getting married to this man. Okay, so fast forward. I get a really big job that put me in Palm Springs for 4 days. It's because I was keying the makeup. Keying means I am the lead makeup artist for a makeup that is designed for a fashion show. The fashion show was being put on by Lifestyle television channel, which was being curated by Project Runway. Okay, so the 4 days I was gone, it was repositioned to me that I was cheating this entire time with someone in Palm Springs. Again, when do I have the time? I'm there on a very professional job. I'm getting a very big bag. There is so much going on. I have to check in with the designer. I have to go and see the stage. I have to do a run through with some of the models. I have to practice the look and critique everything to make sure it looks the way it's supposed to look when the girls walk down the runway. That was my responsibility for being there. By the time I get home, it's then now positioned to me that I had been cheating while I was there, and I had been cheating with the friend. Right. Okay, so we break up. I don't understand anything. Now, mind you, like I said, we had opportunities in our relationship leading up to the breakup. This is now our third apartment. The first apartment that I moved in with him in, we lost because his finances were dwindling. We get into a small, actually a bigger apartment, but it was in Hollywood and it was cheaper because where he lived was in Culver City, which is a nice area. So we found a bigger apartment that was cheaper in Hollywood, but also put me closer to all the jobs that I had, right? Right. Okay, boom. So, that apartment was the apartment that we got kicked out of because while I was giving him my side of the rent, he wasn't paying his side of the rent until he had the rent, and he was paying after the 15th, later and later as it got closer to the end of the month, which was putting us behind. I didn't know any of this. Also, there was a situation where the apartment people end up calling me while I'm at work because he's wandering the halls naked and he's saying that he smoked some bad weed. Come to find out it was crack. I know, it's just so much. Okay, so this third apartment, I scurried before we end up with the eviction on our names to get a new apartment. I put the apartment in my name and he throws a fit that he's not on the lease and we're in this together. So I add him to the lease. So once we break up, this fool starts inviting baby trannies to pick him up to go on a date. So girls are literally coming to my door from a man that broke up with me in a situation that I'm not quite understanding. And mind you, my best friend and I have now also fallen out. So I'm just kind of left in this storm by myself. I have other transgender girlfriends, but I'm also working as much as I'm working and not understanding everything. Okay, so I have to move out. I ended up moving into a studio apartment that one of my employees was moving out of, so I subleased to lease the studio apartment. Now, mind you, that year that I was single in that apartment, I kept go-go dancing, I kept stripping, I was working full-time in cosmetics and also doing celebrity makeup. Now, about like 6 months into living single, while I was working at one of the clubs, I ended up getting intoxicated. I blacked out, a gentleman offered to take me home, and an assault took place. Taken advantage of. You get it. Okay, so then I remove stripping and go-go dancing from my portfolio. Now I lose my car. Now money is becoming tight. Now things are getting really hard. So now fast forward 6 more months. Now we're at the year mark and I'm at a bus stop getting ready to go to my job, my cosmetics job. So while I'm at the bus stop, I see my ex. My ex is surprised. He gets out of line. He was waiting at the welfare office and he walks over to me and he's like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long." And I'm like, "I know." Stay tuned for part 3 because I couldn't get it all out in this one. Okay, part 3 and hopefully the final chapter of me storytelling what dating as a baby trans was like. Okay, so the last part was I see my ex at the bus stop, and when he walks up to me, he's like, "I haven't seen you in so long." Now, mind you, because of the situation where I ended up stop working at the trans club, so after me and my ex best friend fell out, a new friend arose, a new trans sister that I was canoodling with, building memories with, and becoming friends with, became my friend. Now, what sucked in this situation was the morning after I was assaulted, can I say that? I phoned this person, and when I shared with them what happened to me, and I was in severe panic mode because what I woke up to, there was no memory of, and all I remembered was getting a ride, right? Okay, so that was very traumatic for me, and not knowing really who took me home, and not really knowing what happened to me, just knowing the way that I woke up and feeling like lost in the memory, really screwed me up. So when I called this girl, what was told to me was, well, girl, that stuff happens to us sometimes, don't drink so much. So once again, now this is now the second trans girl that I've let very close to me that kind of just kicked dirt in my face, where I was like, that's not nice. Really pissed me off. So again, like the last 6 months, I was kind of like just wandering. So I'm at the bus stop. He says, I haven't seen you in a while, and I said, I know, how have you been? And he literally, pay attention to what I'm about to say. Pay attention to what I'm about to say. He says, we've been wanting to talk to you. Who's we? Well, me and insert ex-best friend's name have been dating. Mind you, we're just approaching the year mark of us being separated. I said, oh, you guys are together? Excuse me. I said, oh, you guys are together? And he was like, yeah. And again, that's so interesting to me because it's like, from what I know of her, she didn't like black guys. And from what I remembered, when it came to him, she couldn't stand him. So I was like, interesting. And he was like, yeah, we didn't want to run into you and it be uncomfortable. And I was like, well, I'm happy for you guys, it is what it is. And then the bus shows up, so I gotta go to work. Now, mind you, again, I'm a baby trans at this point still, even like 4 years in. Again, when you're a baby trans and you're in a relationship, they will absolutely be the reason why your transition slows down, because they don't want you to progress too much. You will be 4 years in a relationship as a baby trans and you won't have your breast work done because they don't want you, again, to gain too much confidence, because then screws up their game. So anywho, baby trans on the bus, and I feel it coming. I feel my eyes swelling up, so I start crying. I pull my shirt, cover my face. Now the baby trans is in the corner of the bus crying. And mind you, it was a 2-hour bus ride to get to work. Okay, so I get to work. When I get to work, I pat my eyes like through the makeup because, I worked in cosmetics. So when I get there, my big boss is there, and she literally looks at me and goes, oh my God, you don't look well. And I was like, I'm sorry, I got some really crazy news. And she was like, go downstairs, clean it up, and when you're ready to come on the floor, let me know. We have a very strict policy. You don't bring your personal to work. And I knew that, especially being in leadership. So I go down to the office, fall apart. Now, mind you, it was originally 8 o'clock. It's a 2-hour bus ride to work, so it's now 10-something. So now I get back on the phone. I start calling the girls up to see who I can get on the phone, because I need to release. Like, this is a lot that just came to me. My ex of 4 years is now in a relationship with my ex-best friend, and they hated each other. This doesn't make sense to me. My brain cannot compute. So I get one of my girls on the phone, and I'm literally like sobbing. She was like, girl, I can't understand you, what's going on? I was like, oh my God, my ex is with my ex-best friend. Pause. When I say she just went silent, and I was like, hello, she goes, so you know. What the fuck do you mean I know? And I was like, literally, what the fuck do you mean I know? And she goes, well, we wanted to tell you. Who the fuck is we? So this bitch decides to go down the list of all the trans girls that were around me who all knew, who are also friends with my ex-best friend, including the girl who stepped into what was going to be the best friend role that I shared with, that I got, the situation, the attack happened to me, also knew. Everyone around me knew. No one told me anything. And I was like, okay, so, everyone knew. And she says, well, they went on a date before you guys started dating. And I was like, that was never communicated to me. What was communicated to me was the story that I originally told in part 1, right? They met. She didn't like it. White is right. Okay, boom. So now that's all explained to me. Now everything's making sense. So what now just came to fruition was that the entire 4 years I was in that relationship, my ex-best friend and my fiance were actually hooking up. Every time that I had her come to the house early and she always was like, okay, girl, whatever, they were utilizing that time to sneak behind my back. And then not only that, people around me knew what was going on, but chose not to share anything with me because they said, well, if we told you, you wouldn't believe us and we didn't want to cause any problems. Then thereafter, I break up with him and then they get together. They conceal that from me because I remove myself from the club scene and just focus 100% on work. Is anyone understanding? Like, do you guys get it? Do you guys fucking get it? At that point, my trust is blown. The way I see friendships is skewed. The way I see intimacy is like, it's shattered. Everything is shattered. Everything, my trust and everything was shattered. And then to add insult to injury, the whole time I was in that relationship, I really thought that was my forever relationship. I feel like a track wife, whatever they call it. It was like, I focused so much on building this incredible relationship with this person who I didn't know. I didn't know from the back of my mind. I was living with this man. I didn't know what he was doing when I was away at work, but I thought that I could trust him because he was my partner. I didn't know that he was smoking crack with baby trannies in the house. I didn't know he was screwing my ex-best friend while I was away at work. Again, I was working 4 jobs to keep us afloat. 4 jobs. And the entire time playing in my face, only for him to use his ex-best friend, his like homeboy that he met at the club, as this pawn to make me feel like I need to be more subservient to him and be more attached to him to prove to him how loyal I was. The whole time he's projecting the shit on me of what he's doing with my ex-best friend, mind you, and then they're sitting in my face acting like they're bickering and they don't get along just to keep the front up that they don't like each other. So my first relationship as a baby trans, I'll say it was traumatic. It was traumatizing. And then dating then thereafter, I learned that the majority of men aren't going to publicly date you. And then again, as I was progressing, I was getting more work done, more things done. Now the fantasy girl, the girl that looks like a bombshell, they love you online. They love you in quiet places, but they're never going to present you. The baby tranny is always going to get a guy that's going to like flex with her and make her feel a very certain way, but is also going to be playing mind games, you know, behind closed doors, because there's a lot of foolishness and fuckery. And when a girl's looking for validation from a man, that's called power. And the moment you no longer need that validation, they're going to do everything to humble you. I hope the story time helped some of my trans sisters. I hope you guys enjoyed my storytelling. There were 2 other relationships I could absolutely talk about, and probably why I'm not a dater today at 482, but let me know what you think. Comment down below. Feel free to like. Thanks, guys.